Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Hammerdown Roadshow, where we're going to put the pedal to the metal and talk trends, tech, and tunes. Today on episode 5 in season 2, I've got two distinguished guests. Somebody called and said, "Hey, Jay, could you get some younger guests? Because it seems like all we talk about is aging population." And I got a couple of two of the best guys in the business here, cybersecurity or otherwise. I've got Kenny Burr and Ryan Connolly from Arctic Wolf. How you guys doing today?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having us.
Hey, no
Yeah,
problem.
we're great.
Hey, Kenny, why don't you give us a little bit of your background and bio and what you do over at Arctic Wolf?
Well, I appreciate the tip on the youth. I don't feel that young. I think when we met, was it 7, 8 years ago? Jay was like one of the first guys that actually took me serious as a newbie in this space after coaching college basketball for 5 years. So much appreciated. Jay's definitely one of my favorite people in the industry. I bounce stuff off of him all the time. But Kenny Burr, I'm the director of large enterprise sales in the East here at Arctic Wolf. I've been here for just under 4 years and still humming along. Thanks for having us.
Hey, no problem, man. Ryan, what about you, man?
Yeah, appreciate it, Jay. I think we met when I was at Tier Point. Same thing. I think, like Kenny said, when we met, you took me seriously. You called me an operator, and that was like, I wore that badge with pride. And I really appreciate, you having the faith in me. And I think, you always remember the people that help you out at first. So I'm pumped to be here, pumped to be talking to you. But now I work for Kenny. I'm the large enterprise account executive covering the Carolinas and Southern Virginia. And I've been at Arctic Wolf for almost 2.5 years now. It's been the best 2.5 years of my career. So really happy to be here.
No, that's awesome. And Kenny, it's interesting because when you showed up on the scene 7, 8 years ago, whatever it was, and that's how we all got connected. But, one of the things we're going to talk about today on the industry trend is how do we automate and with resource constraints. And the first customer that we really got aligned to and sunk our teeth into was Southeastern Regional in Lumberton, North Carolina. And I think you moved on to greener pastures, and that's how I got connected to Ryan. But when we see a lot of the industry level news, I know you guys at Arctic Wolf have had a ton of success in healthcare like we have, business is growing, but everybody saw St. Margaret's, the 10th rural customer to close this year because they got breached and had an issue. So, whether it's large enterprise, we're all in Charlotte, Atrium Health is front and center in Avant, but all those rural customers, because they have a mission and a job to do. So from an automation perspective, Ryan, what are you seeing in the marketplace from what Arctic Wolf does? What is somebody when they talk to you guys? What's the aha moment?
Yeah, I think another part of this podcast is going to talk about resource constraints, and I think that's a big problem in healthcare as well. And so people are looking to do more with less. And I think automation, they're trying to lean towards automation. AI and machine learning are all buzzwords that are, flying around these days. But when you look at Arctic Wolf, I think, one of the reasons why we're having so much success, especially in healthcare, is because we automate, but we also use humans to deliver these alerts. So nothing goes to customers without human eyes seeing it. And so I think that's important because, we're able to really provide high fidelity alerts or high touch alerts instead of just, getting automated on something that may not be real. And then at the same time, we have a concierge security team too that's going to jump in and kind of hold the customer's hand. So it's more than just automation. We have the customer support on the back end too. And I think when the crap hits the fan, people want somebody in the trenches with them, and we provide that. And I think that's the aha moment for a lot of our customers is, okay, so you're going to help me if something actually happens. It's not just good luck, figure it out.
Yeah, and that's awesome, and there's a huge need for that in the marketplace. When we talk about resource constraints and skills shortage and automating, the need for automating, 3.4 million jobs now that'll never be filled in cybersecurity. What's interesting is 22% of the economy is healthcare, and there's 1 million jobs, which is almost a third of that 3.4 million. Kenny, when you're dealing with this, because some of the times I talk to you, I'm like, wow, is that easy? What is the simplification on how you help? What's your story when we talk to customers at a high level about resource constraints and automation?
Yeah, I mean, we leverage automation with our own proprietary platform that helps the humans that we have within our security operations centers globally. But I think because we've stayed focused in a market that has has been growing just due to what you just described, the resource constraints across the market. And healthcare is our largest vertical that we serve today, just based on the statistics you shared. So I think like leveraging automation with our own proprietary platform and building processes and customization that like customers have one of two ways and a fork in the road. It's a DIY, build it themselves, hire an army of people that don't exist, try to tie tools from different vendors together to fit within the framework of what they're trying to accomplish at a business level. Or it's really a build or buy it, right? Like focus on healthcare, focus on the patients. And I think that's really where a lot of times we see customers take the opposite path, but always come back to, leveraging a platform or service like what we've delivered here at Arctic Wolf. So it's been a consistent trend since I've been here for roughly 4 years.
Yeah, and we see something similar. So, I always joke with certain people, like you guys know Arnie. I'm like, hey, I got to call Arnie to go move a Volkswagen. But if I got to go build a 3-on-3 basketball team or go run a relay race or do some sort of Ironman thing, you guys are the 2 first rounders. One of the things here at Fortinet from an automation resource constraints, we're in a similar boat. When I met you, Kenny and Ryan, everybody wanted best of breed. And we're going to buy all this cool technology. And then they adopted a 15%. And then like, what do you get? So from our platform story, you talk about having live bodies, some of our threat intelligence services and SOC as a service or remediation for incident response, that paired with our NDR technology, which is going to go give them a virtual security assistant to take some of that load off. That's where we see a lot of the automation, as well as within the fabric of having one consolidated the Fortinet single OS that ties into 500 ecosystem partners. And I know we partner with you guys, and more mature programs is where you're focused, where they've got a SIM and a SOAR and they've got a SOC and they want to do some of this real solid and robust. Anything else you guys are seeing, logically on filling some of those gaps on automation and resource constraints? Ryan?
I mean, I think Kenny nailed it, right? I think a lot of people are looking, you see it a lot where people went out, they tried to buy a SIM, they tried to do everything themselves and build out a team, and they quickly started to realize that wasn't exactly feasible given the cost of doing it that way. And so then people then try to say, okay, well, let's hire somebody to help us manage this SIM and help us manage this SOC. And then, that ultimately is difficult too, because, no one really owns the outcome. And so with, again, moving forward to an Arctic Wolf platform play or somebody who can kind of bring all of those tools together into one place and then provide outcomes for customers. That's, again, why we're seeing so much success. And we partner with great technology like Fortinet, bring that into our platform to help customers get the most out of those alerts as well. So not making them rip and replace on the tools that they've already made investments in is a huge advantage for us, because, again, people love Fortinet, right? They love the tools that they've already bought, but how do we help them get more out of those tools? That's what Arctic Wolf is looking to do.
Yeah, and Kenny, I don't know if you want to touch anything, but you and I talk about reducing risk all the time, and you and I talk all the time that you were a great shooter and I was a good rebounder. I never really worked on shooting, but it's one of those things where to make a decision to reduce risk, what do you see from like Arctic Wolf partnering with customers? Is this a gap to where you guys fill that gap where somebody might not be a good shooter or a good passer?
Yeah, it's funny. Like our company's been focused on identifying what that risk really is to customers who haven't operationalized their SOC or just their security program in general. You talked about the vast number of tools out there. I was at an event last week in Boston, and there was a statistic thrown out that the average enterprise consumes or is invested in 76 like disparate tools, security tools. And the presenter jokingly said that they know of. Right. So it's like there's so much out there, and then there's so much turnover within the health, like not even just healthcare, just cybersecurity in general, that a lot of what customers inherit, they don't even realize or understand what they have in place. So we tried to we've built an analysis. We acquired an incident response firm about a year ago who'd been in business for the last decade, and we identified through hundreds of cases that 90% of the organizations that did not have an operationalized SOC and or like an MDR type of outsourced service were more at risk, right? So 90% of those organizations, let me rephrase that. 10% of the organizations within those cases, within the last 5 to 10 years, hundreds of cases, had an operationalized SOC or had some type of outsourced service to really take on blocking and tackling. So in our eyes, we see that we fill and we reduce risk by 90%. Just based on inherent data that we have as a company through the acquisition that we made roughly about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, so that's wild that 90% of the market needs some sort of complementary service to go deliver that. Some of the research I did before the call, because I didn't want you guys to call me out that I was not a cybersecurity professional, but the incidents in healthcare up 41.6% last year. So the OCR is about 2 years behind. Each of those breaches cost $10 million. So, I read a lot of financial data on every provider that's out there in a lot of the healthcare business. It's under a significant amount of pressure lately with what margins look like. So it's awesome what you guys are doing to address that trend. Let's transition over to tech. So from a tools perspective, Kenny, we'll stay with you for a minute here. Is there anything within your platform that's like the super obvious thing that customers lean into to automate and deal with the resource constraints with Arctic Wolf?
Yeah, when folks talk about automation, I always talk about the level of maturity the organization has to truly operationalize a SOAR tool. I think like the statistic that I've seen is that 10% of organizations that acquire or invest in SOAR tools, they actually operationalize that specific tool, right? So like with a tool requires talent. And when there's 76 disparate tools floating around, we obviously have talked about 3.4 million jobs that are open. So the gap is really the level of like how effective you can be in leveraging those tools. So in our eyes, from what we see from our purview, particularly in less mature markets, healthcare, manufacturing, retail, SLED, we see, and we take a lot of the manual work and burden through the service and delivery of what we built internally here. So something that's proprietary to us, and I think that because of how we've built our own internal platform, not leveraging third-party tools, has allowed us to build integrations, has allowed us to build what we call the network effect, where we built our own threat intelligence feeds. So across 4,000 customers, 25 different verticals, healthcare being the largest, we have 425 healthcare customers today. I checked that before this. So when we identify an IOC, we're able to build that into the platform. And with a turnkey solution like what we've built today, it allows customers to operationalize or become operationalized and reduce that risk by 90% within 30 to 60 days of onboarding. So if we identify something in an organization's environment, we're going to build that into the platform so that every other customer, regardless of vertical, will have that threat intel built into the platform. We call that the network effect. So that's proprietary to us. That's automated into the platform, which customers can take advantage of within day one of go live. So it's a pretty cool story. It's different. It's not a single tenant instance. Think of it as a multi-tenant platform, leveraging tens of thousands of rules built and customization built. Like I've been involved with healthcare customers across the East Coast where they are so hands-on with their one security guy of the 50 rules they have built into their SIM. And they don't understand that like we literally have like almost 100,000 custom rules built into the platform that they wouldn't necessarily have to care and feed for that specific rule. It's like focus on the business. Let us take the blocking and tackling.
Yeah. And to
go ahead.
Sorry, Jay, I was just going to say to piggyback off that, I think, it helps to talk to the scale of the platform too. We do more global observations per day into the Arctic Wolf platform than global emails sent and Google searches combined, which is just an outrageous number. But that's the amount of info data that we're ingesting into our platform. And then again, combine that with the 4,000 plus customers, that's why we're able to have such a strong network effect. And it's that just grows. The more customers we get, the better we're able to protect all of them.
Yeah, and so you guys are like Forta family, like cousins of the Forta family, because we have an ecosystem of 500 plus partners, plus stuff that's not integrated, but we do have a relationship with Arctic Wolf. One of the things that we see as well, that we deliver that same experience, this is crazy. We have 51% of the global firewall market. So when there is a threat actor coming after healthcare, whether it's Revel or whoever, we see all that data and intelligence because we have 51% of the global firewall market. So our FortiGuard Labs is built out of that. You want incident response, our folks are going to see it as fast as they do. It sounds like you guys are on the same page with aggregating all that data, blocking all the threats, and making sure that customers, regardless of how sophisticated they are, they're exponentially, if you're creating hundreds of rules, that's going to get somebody ahead because somebody manually sitting there creating all these rules. Somebody that finds it in, Philadelphia is going to be able to help every customer that you have globally. We also, do you guys parse like your data when you go talk to a customer? Yeah, so we do too. it's pretty interesting. Like there's certain geopolitical things that happen, and there's a spike in the market. Hey, there's this threat actor group because they're trying to make money to go fund this thing, and Eastern Europe's a little bit turmoil right now. So it's pretty cool stuff. When you guys go to deliver to the customer, 90 days after, what do they say?
So like, I think what's different about what we've done here, I've always used the analogy of there's 3 plays in the playbook, right? There's, we have 3 SKUs today. And that's what's allowed us to scale and do what we do well and keep, we have a 98% retention rate today, right? And I'd say that over half of our customers are on annual contracts, have the opportunity to leave year over year. The human touch and the human element of how we deliver, we call it our concierge delivery model. We tie humans to each one of our customers that are backed by 600 plus triage engineers across the SOC to do a lot of the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 before it gets to a higher level engineer that's going to be customer facing. What customers say is they really love the human element of our service versus, I think what Ryan described, what you've seen over the past 10, 20 years has been, hey, I need a security program. It starts with a SIM. Okay, this is a really complex tool. It requires a lot of expensive people. And then I need 24/7 coverage for whatever reason that may be, for cyber insurance, for compliance, or just to reduce, mean time to detect, mean time to respond, right? So I think what we've heard and what we've seen is that the way that we deliver the service is an ongoing strategic relationship with the customer, where we're meeting with customers bi-weekly. We're going through what we call security posture in-depth reviews as a part of the service, right? So it could be firewall reviews. There's 100 different templates that we have that are done bi-weekly. And then they also have access to our teams 24/7, whether they're in the SOC or whether that intimate relationship team through the spiders, ad hoc, right, during their time zone, right? So it's 24/7 coverage, but there's also this ongoing strategic consulting element of the service that, like we say all the time, like by helping you improve your security posture, our jobs are going to become easier because you're safer.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, right. It's interesting that you say that because we sat down with a customer in California in January. They've been about a 5-year customer. They spent a significant amount of money, mergers and acquisitions. Every one of the talk tracks we go through, telehealth, cloud, connected medical. And I said, hey, what's your favorite Fortinet product? Because you know what? It's not the product, it's the people, right? So we've got access to people, executives. There's a lot of touch back and forth. We're always ahead of the threat actors because we've invested in the technology and it performs, right? You do what you say you're going to do. And that's, something that I think, you guys were always solid on when we work together all the time, right? It's, the alert fatigue things that go on with customers to where it's nonstop. So how do we get, like I said, if you're not good at shooting, you better be really good at rebounding. So, parse some of that stuff off and outsource it. Ryan, anything from your end on the automation when you're going through this with customers or feedback through, how do we go and address that resource constraint?
Yeah, I think, one thing that we see a big trend is what we call the effectiveness gap in cybersecurity. And that, last year there was $170 billion in spend in the cybersecurity market, and we still saw like a 48% increase in breaches. And so it's not that people aren't trying to fix these problems. It's just that, at the end of the day, you need humans to provide the outcomes, right? You can throw tools at every problem, but, you look at the target breach that was caught by a tool, but, the humans missed it because they were probably overworked. They probably didn't have enough resources. And so, that's where we want to come in and try to provide more people and processes to the technology that customers already have so that we can help augment their teams and then help with that automation, but also deliver a human touch. And again, going back to, like I said, when things hit the fan, you want somebody sitting in the trenches with you, kind of helping you out, somebody who's been there before, somebody who's experienced it. And so that's, a huge piece of the service that we deliver. And then, again, I always joke, but I think partly true that we're headquartered out of Minneapolis, and, you meet people from Minnesota, they're all like delivering the service and they're the nicest people. They just want people to be happy. They want to make people happy. And so, you joke about it, but it's actually true. And I think customers feel the love with that too.
Yeah, it's interesting. We sit down and get a lot of feedback from customers. And what you talk about, Kenny, somebody that wants to start with SIM, it's probably not a great place to start in your security program. So we see, we have an opportunity to go anywhere within NIST or high trust framework to get a customer shored up or better posture, better together story. And we've had other customers come in and say, 76 tools we know about. One of the funniest guys I know, I'm not going to name his name, but he's on the West Coast, and he says, you know what? I've been here a year. We're having the Thunderdome. I don't care who paid for this tool. There's no ego involved here. If we have two things that do the same thing, do we have platform on one side, point solution on the other? We have multiple things in this platform. And that's why we've had success with those customers, because we have 500 integrations. So there's certain things you're like, well, yeah, we've got a 3-year commitment and this product's working. Great. But we have an opportunity here with the deception technology or NDR, or, we're not going to go hire 27 SIM analysts or build out a full SOC. Those are, things that we hear from customers. So before we get to the tunes, this is the most important thing. How does somebody get a hold of you guys? Like, what's your email address, Twitter? What's the best way to get a hold of you, Connolly?
Yeah, probably email. I mean, you can call me too anytime, 317-698-2194. But my email's first.last@arcticwolf.com. And remember the C in Arctic, ARCTIC, because a lot of people are spelling it like the coolers, RTIC. So, we can post it in the comments too underneath the video. But yeah, email is definitely best.
I'll definitely do that. I just want to make sure everybody's accommodated. Kenny, what about you? Because I know you're the world traveler. Somebody told me, I think it was Ryan told me, Kenny's cell phone is worth more than anybody else's cell phone on the planet. But Kenny, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Why is that? I want to know the answer to that. Why is that?
Because it's always working, constantly on.
Yeah, same. Kenny.Burr@arcticwolf.com. Email's the best for me.
Awesome. And everybody knows how to get a hold of me, jmervis@fortinet.com, healthcare@fortinet.com if you don't want to talk to me, somebody else on the team, pharma@fortinet.com if you want to just send it to a different address. But we've got those 3 aliases out there. Great team here. It's interesting too, when we talk to customers and resellers, because I know you guys deliver a ton through the channel. It's the only way we can scale business, but the channel definitely, if they don't have their own offering, which most don't, what's interesting is we've grown significantly since I've been here. So we grew, doubled our business the first year, up 43%, 5% in Q1. I can't disclose what this quarter is, but I can no longer say we're the only partner that's growing significantly with what you're talking about from customer acquisition, Kenny. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm always rooting for you guys, unless we're going to compete, but it would be the better together. We've got a couple of resellers. I was on with the guys out of Nashville, Cam over at Plow Networks. They're a Fortinet Arctic Wolf. That's how they deliver services to some of their customers. They've got, over 50% of their healthcare business, but they know that they reduce risk. They've got a prescriptive formula. They can run a security program with the customer, and they get an outcome, within the first month of going through that service. So awesome. So this is the best part of the show. For me, it's like corporate Christmas. I've been thinking about it. So you guys text. Since you're the guest, I said, what kind of tunes are we going to tie back in? Connolly, I know you watch every week. Kenny, I know you'll send me a random text, but Ryan's like, hey, I want to do Red Hot Chili Peppers. So Chili Peppers is the band this week. We're going to tie some cybersecurity trends and some healthcare trends back into what we talked about with resource constraints and automation. Connolly, since you picked the band, you're first. What's the first tune that you tie back in and why?
So I'm going to go with Under the Bridge. That's the song. It starts with, sometimes I feel like I don't have a problem. Sometimes I feel like I don't have a partner. Sometimes I feel like my only friend is the city I live in, the city of angels. And you kind of think of that reminds me of Arctic Wolf, right? Like, cybersecurity is probably a lonely place for a lot of these practitioners, especially if something happens. Another lyric in that song is, I don't ever want to feel like I did that day. Right. So I'm sure, if an event happens, people are freaking out, but you want to have a partner. And Arctic Wolf would be the city of angels in that situation. You're going through it together. Like I said earlier, you want to have somebody in the trenches with you battling. If the shit hits the fan, you want somebody to be there with you that's gone through it before, that can say, hey, this is what we're going to do to help remediate this or help you get through this. AI is such a big buzzword these days, but at the end of the day, you don't want to sit with a machine next to you in that situation. You want to have access to humans that are going to guide you through it. And I think that definitely resonated with me when I was listening to that song.
Awesome. Kenny, what do you have for your first tune for the Red Hot Chili Peppers and cybersecurity?
Yeah, I'll start with Other Side, because I feel like cybersecurity practitioners constantly want to feel like they're on the other side of feeling safe, right? Because I'd say 90% of them don't feel safe. So I'll start with that. Not as long-winded as Ryan, but I'll start with Other Side.
Yeah, and Ryan did call me out because I did use this when I was in Fort Lauderdale, because it was right before we all went and saw the Chili Peppers concert. So I'm going to take a tune. But other side, I always thought of how do we get through the event to the other side. I love that. It's a great album. A lot of history there. I've got one that I know you guys don't have, but it's Torture Me. When somebody doesn't automate, there's a lot of repetitive tasks we have to do, whether it's, sales or operations or whatever, but if it's not automated, just torture me. I mean, like, how many people in the sales field just go, oh my God, I got to do expenses because it's not automated. It's getting better. It's not like it was in, 2005, but it torture me. If we do not automate this stuff and deal with the resource constraints, that's where I think some of the alert fatigue and stuff like that comes in. But it's interesting too, when Ryan said Chili Peppers, we all saw them in Charlotte. I was joking with the guys on the prep before the call. To me, it was like the greatest show since I saw Van Halen with four band members up there just crank it out, right? 1993, Van Halen at their apex. They blew it out that night. I mean, they played like they needed the money. It was awesome.
It was an epic show. Flea's up there, like, I don't know how that guy doesn't get whiplash every show. He's just head banging the whole time. It was awesome.
So what's crazy is those guys are all 61, 62, 61, and 53. And those guys play like they're in their 20s. And that, I know they've gone through a whole genesis of how, the rockers go, but man, they played like they needed the money. I'll take the next tune because Kenny took one of mine, but Can't Stop. If we don't automate, we can't stop. I mean, and when they open with that, I mean, like, I knew it was on, man. I mean, when Chad Smith started that, open with that, it was on. So Can't Stop. We want to help customers. That's the greatest thing about the cybersecurity community. We can talk to customers and help other customers out. We can talk to other people in the ecosystem, talk to resellers. There's a lot of positive things with how do we stop it, but can't stop. Kenny, you got another tune? Because we're going fantasy football style back up the draft.
Yeah, I'll go scar tissue because everyone on the customer side has that scar tissue.
So yes, and the scar tissue is now a resume builder because a lot of the questions at the CISO, deputy CISO, and analyst levels have you been through an event? So before it was, I've never been touched. Well, now it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So Connolly, we'll let you close out. What's your next Chili Pepper song?
Snow. The lyrics are so good. The more I see, the less I know. The more I'd like to let it go. That's going back to the automation thing. If you're not automating those alerts, you're just going to get inundated with them, and you're not getting any good information out of millions of data points. You need somebody to help you get information out of that. So
and I'll take a bonus one. Californication. A lot of California creates a lot of regulation and a lot of why breaches are reported to the OCR back to use an end user if somebody gets compromised. I think the more it's regulated and the more you as a consumer know, it's probably better for us, but we're on the other side. Let's go get customers shored up and protected. Ryan, you or Kenny have anything else that you want to throw out there from a Chili Peppers perspective, industry, any other funny comments?
I think I'm good. I appreciate it, Jay. I'm pumped to be on. Like you said, I try to watch every time you post these. I give a shout out to your son at University of South Carolina. Go Cox. Let's see the t-shirt, Jay. I know you wore it for me.
That's
it.
I went full Joe Rogan for you guys because we're trying to be that Joe Rogan of the tech podcast, but I have better hair than he does. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. Hey, listen, nobody sits through training anymore. Nobody wants to sit through 3 hours of training. If I can tell you what's going on in 5 minutes and we go talk to a customer, it's always funny too. I have a lot of people in my network, and I know you guys do too. But anytime I'm somewhere, or you guys are somewhere like, dude, you in Boston? Last time I saw Kenny was like, we're in Boston's like, 10 o'clock at night. So
man.
Connolly's in Nashville. He's like, man, are you in Nashville this week? I was like, I was in Nashville last week. And I'm like, I'm in Charlotte this week. So we got to film the podcast. So appreciate you guys being on. Listen, put the pedal to the metal, put the hammer down. Trends, Tech, and Tunes. Tell your mom, tell your friends, share it, like it. Appreciate you guys being on. Thanks.